Hi there, I'm Christine Weber. I love to support mature yoga teachers and getting your wisdom out there to the world. So thank you so much for being here today and joining me for my live stream. So it's a live stream. Sometimes people are like, you ramble too much. I'm like, it's a live stream. Like, if you don't want me to ramble, go ahead and watch my YouTube videos. I don't ramble, I just teach you stuff. Yeah, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Subtle Yoga with Christine Weber, and you can also subscribe to my Facebook page. And on Wednesdays, I come here at 11 a.m. Eastern time to chat about yoga things. Excuse me. So I'm glad that you're here, and thank you for joining me. And please leave a comment. Okay, today I am going to talk a little bit about and show you some ways to take care of your kidneys in forward bend. So why would you want to take care of your kidneys? I mean, well, you should. Like, what's more important, your kidneys or your, um, biceps? Like, it's the kidneys are not that your biceps aren't important, but the kidneys are this very vital organ without which, life doesn't happen. So it's important to recognize that yoga is not just musculoskeletal. Yoga is not just musculoskeletal. Not that that stuff isn't great, and I love stretching my hamstrings as much as the next person, but that's not why yoga was developed. Like, if I want to stretch my hamstrings effectively, I can look to the PT world because they're the ones who really understand how to do that. And fortunately, a lot of yoga people have incorporated that understanding into what we teach. But what we teach is decidedly not physical therapy. If it was physical therapy, why would we call it yoga? What distinguishes yoga is the search for oneness, the search for expansion, the search for greatness, the search to connect my individual consciousness with all that is, with the cosmic consciousness. That's what yoga is about. There is a goal to yoga. People love to say, oh, there's no goal. Absolutely incorrect. Yoga has a telos, it has a goal. And the goal is to connect and to remember that I am pure consciousness, I'm pure awareness. If the universe didn't have a goal, it would stay the same. Nothing would ever change. But the universe, the world we live in, the universe is constantly changing, which means there is a directionality, there is a goal to it. Similarly, the human beings, as the microcosm of the microcosm of the macrocosmic expression, also have a goal in their life. And the yogis would say that goal is to understand who you are. And of course, there's so many different ways to do that. There's all these different varieties of meditation. It's a beautiful, it's a beautiful, multifaceted kind of experience. Nevertheless, it is an experience. So going back to that assertion, like, let's not get overly focused in the yoga world on stretching stuff. Like, it's nice, stretching's good, but that's why call it yoga. So because yoga has a very specific purpose, and it really is the purpose of all human existence, which is to understand ourselves better and understand who we are as the loving expression of pure awareness. Yoga without love is very dry, and it doesn't, from my perspective, doesn't really have much of a purpose. Let's go back to your kidneys. I don't know how I got off on that tangent, but it's a live stream, so I talk about lots of things. Okay, so here's what I wanted to say, which is that when I first started studying asana, which was way back in the 80s, what was very commonly taught, because I studied with swamis from 1988, I was studying with swamis and sannyasins, and what the teachers were saying is that we do asanas, and they said it's in various ways, but we do asanas to affect the mind. We do an asanas to have a specific energetic effect on the mind. And therefore, these asanas that we do, whether it's the traditional asanas like Cobra and Matsyendra asana, the twist practices, or Sarvang asana, shoulder stand practices. The reason we do these specific asanas is because they're like little energy packets. They create a specific vibration in the body, in the biofield perhaps, that then has an effect on the mind. That's very different than this is the way you stretch your hamstrings, isn't it? It's a very different understanding. And that's why traditional asanas are considered relevant and important. What's going on right now in the yoga world is a lot of people are talking about like functional asanas. Well, from my perspective, if your asana isn't functional to begin with, I don't know why you're doing it. Like all asanas are functional. You just have to understand how to adapt them to what the needs are in your body, and this is why I'm such a huge fan of Jessica Char's system and the mini yoga system, although I've studied many different systems, but I'm such a fan of it because it's like, oh, your leg doesn't do that because that's your body. Okay, let's do this instead, and we'll still create this similar. Jessica Char didn't talk about energetic packages. That wasn't part of his thing, but he was all about accessibility, right? So anyway, my sannyasin teachers, however, did talk about energetic packages. Absolutely, they wouldn't use that word, but they talked about the energy of asana. And so one of the things that's happening in asana beyond the obvious musculoskeletal stuff is that my body is creating a certain configuration that then has an impression upon the mind. If you want to have an impression upon the mind, the muscles are useful. The muscles produce myokines. There's a certain, and we know that's important for inflammation, for example. So there's a certain endocrine response from the muscles, but it's the endocrine glands where stuff is really happening, right, in the mind. And we all know that because we say things like, I was so emotional, I was choked up, or I loved him with all my heart, or that really gives me a weird gut feeling. Like we know that this midline of the body, where many of the endocrine glands are located slightly off to the side, has an effect on the mind, right? So forward bends. Let's get to forward bends because that's what I wanted to talk about today. So forward bends have an effect not just on your hamstrings and your calves, or even on the back line of myofascia, which they certainly have an effect on, but they also have an effect on endocrine organs. And one of them may be the pancreas in the front here. And another one is certainly the adrenal glands. And my sannyasin teachers, my Swami teachers back in the day would say, for example, you do cobra as a way to compress the adrenal cortex sitting on top of both kidneys back there and to help it function better. Why would you want your adrenal cortex to function better? The adrenal glands have everything to do with energy in our body as well as stress response, right? So if they're functioning better, perhaps I'm a little more resilient to stress. Perhaps I have a little bit more of a sense of ability to bounce back from difficulties. Perhaps I can quiet my mind. The purpose of asana, quiet my mind to the fears and the worries and the external pressures that I feel throughout my day-to-day existence or when difficult things happen. I want those, and I want those adrenal glands to function properly. Of course, it's not based entirely on the adrenal glands, right? There's a very complex interaction with the hypothalamus, the pituitary, the adrenal glands, and also related to the ovaries and the testes, also related to the thyroid. Some people call this the adrenal, the hypothalamic adrenal, thyroidal, gonoidal, and I've even heard gut brain thrown into the axis. So all of this stuff is certainly working together in concert. Nevertheless, this asana is having some effect, and I don't think science understands necessarily what's going on or can explain necessarily yet. It will be able to at some point what's going on when you're doing a forward bend. So you're doing a forward bend, there's some kind of stretching happening in the back line of myofascia. That's great. So you get feelings in your low back, feelings in your hamstrings, right? But what's going on in terms of the spaciousness that's created in the kidney adrenal area? Maybe that's interesting. Maybe that will become the topic of research at some point, and we'll have a better scientific explanation for why that affects the mind. The yogi said forward bends create calmness in the mind, right? They're langana. They tend to be langana, right? Reducing, then letting go, bringing things down. Okay, so how can you add a little more of that nuanced information to the way that you practice a forward bend? One way you can do that is by using your hands. The hands help us to develop on the body, help us to develop greater proprioceptive awareness as well as interoceptive awareness. I like to put my hands on the low back kidney area. That's one way. Not everybody can do that comfortably. You could also do the back of your hand and bring feelings of kindness here, feelings of energy, groundedness, if you like. And then you can take a breath in. And on your exhale, you can slide the hands down the backs of the legs, which gets into the bladder meridian in Chinese medicine, and certainly is related to the nervous system from the Chinese medicine perspective. When you inhale up, you can come up the kidney meridian, which is the insides of the leg. Right, so just doing this kind of exhaling down, it might feel a little weird to some people, inhaling up, but it tunes us in. If you don't like the hands on the body, why not just work in the energy field, right? So the hands like maybe an inch or two from the body on the exhale, and the inhale floating back up. That's another, another possibility. So please give it a try and let me know in the comments what you think. And hey, tell me what else you want me to talk about. I'm just here to chat with you on Wednesdays. So let me know. Thanks so much. I'll see you next week. Bye.